Smartphones that can detect car crashes and save lives? It sounds like science fiction, but that's exactly what we might see in the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Today we're diving into the future of mobile technology and how it's pushing way beyond just making calls and sending texts.
Whoa, hold on a second. Car crash detection in a smartphone. That's incredible. How does something like that even work?
Well, it's pretty fascinating stuff. According to the leaks we're seeing, the S25 Ultra might come equipped with sensors that can detect sudden impacts or decelerations consistent with a car crash. If it senses something's wrong, it could automatically alert emergency services. It's like having a personal safety guardian right in your pocket.
That's mind-blowing. I mean, we've seen similar features in some smartwatches, but bringing it to smartphones could be a game changer. What other cutting-edge features are we looking at with this new Galaxy?
Oh, there's a whole laundry list of impressive specs. Let's start with the brain of the operation, the processor. SamMobile, which has a solid track record with Samsung predictions, says we're looking at Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. This thing is supposed to be an absolute beast in terms of performance and energy efficiency.
So how does that translate to real-world use? I mean, most phones these days feel pretty snappy already.
Well, you're right that most flagship phones are pretty quick. But this new processor could take things to another level. We're talking about seamless multitasking, faster app launches, and better performance in demanding tasks like video editing or for running multiple apps simultaneously. Plus, the energy efficiency improvements could mean better battery life, even with all these high-end features.
That sounds promising. But you know what they say, the proof is in the pudding. Or in this case, I guess it's in the benchmarks and real-world tests.
Exactly. And speaking of real-world performance, let's talk about the RAM and storage. We're potentially looking at up to 16 GB of RAM and 1 terabyte of internal storage using UFS 4.0 technology. That's more RAM than some laptops.
Wow, 16 GB of RAM in a phone? That's a lot. But do we really need that much in a smartphone?
Well, it might seem like overkill now, but it's all about future-proofing. As apps become more complex and we start doing more intensive tasks on our phones, that extra RAM could come in handy. Plus, it'll make switching between dozens of apps feel absolutely seamless.
I see your point. It's like buying a car with more horsepower than you need. You might not use it all the time, but it's nice to have when you need it. So, what about the camera? That's always a big selling point for smartphones these days.
Oh, you're going to love this. According to Digital Chat Station, who's known for accurate camera spec leaks, we're getting a new 50MP ultra-wide sensor. That's a significant jump from the 12MP on the current model. And they're keeping the 200MP primary camera from the S24 Ultra.
That sounds impressive on paper, but what does it mean for the average user who just wants to take good photos?
Great question. Essentially, it means better quality photos, especially in challenging conditions. The higher megapixel count allows for more detail. And larger sensors typically perform better in low light. So whether you're taking landscape shots with the ultra-wide or capturing detailed close-ups with the main camera, you should see noticeable improvements.
That makes sense. But all these high-end features must be pretty power-hungry, right? What's the battery situation looking like?
Well, interestingly enough, GS Marina reports that we're likely to see the same 5000 mAh battery capacity as the previous model. And this is key, with the more efficient processor, we might actually see better battery life overall.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're not increasing the battery size, but they're optimizing the phone to use power more efficiently.
Exactly. It's all about balance. They're trying to maintain a slim profile while still giving us all-day battery life. And they're sticking with 45W wired charging, which is fast but not as blazing as some competitors.
I wonder if that's a safety consideration. After all, we all remember the Note 7 fiasco.
You're spot on. Samsung's been pretty cautious with battery tech since then. They're prioritizing long-term battery health over ultra-fast charging speeds. It's a trade-off, but probably a smart one in the long run.
That makes sense. Now let's circle back to that car crash detection feature. It's part of the new software, right? What else can we expect on that front?
Right, so according to Tom's guide, we're looking at One UI 7 based on Android 15. The car crash detection is just one of several AI-powered features we might see. It's really showing how our phones are evolving beyond just communication tools into potentially life-saving devices.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's amazing how far we've come from the early days of mobile phones. So what's the damage going to be to our wallets for all this tech?
Well, you might want to sit down for this one. Ross Young, an industry analyst with a solid track record, suggests we're looking at a slight price increase. We might be talking about a starting price around $1,300 to $1,400 depending on the configuration.
Ouch, that's not cheap, but I suppose you get what you pay for, right?
That's one way to look at it. And remember, these high-end features often trickle down to mid-range and budget devices over time. So in a way, the S25 Ultra is giving us a glimpse of what might become standard in a few years.
You know, that's a really good point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of flagship devices, but the real impact is often felt when these technologies become more accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. And that's what makes following tech so exciting. We're not just talking about gadgets, we're watching the evolution of tools that are becoming increasingly central to our daily lives.
Well said. Any final thoughts on the S25 Ultra before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'd say keep an eye out for the official announcement. While these leaks are exciting, Samsung might have a few surprises up their sleeve. And who knows, maybe they'll introduce some feature we haven't even considered yet.
That's a great point. Well, there you have it, folks. The Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, a phone that's shaping up to be a true powerhouse of innovation. From its redesigned body to its advanced AI features, it's clear that Samsung is pushing the boundaries of what a smartphone can be.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, for all the latest in tech news and analysis, keep tuning in to Gen FM. We'll be here to break down all the biggest announcements and developments in the world of technology. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the ever-evolving world of tech.